Resolution. Okay, we'll move on to the second item. It is an ordinance to rezone property located at 201 Gin Shop Hill Road from B2 to R4. We have with us Burke Lambert and Ken Gwinner. Is that how you pronounce your last name? Thank you. I stumble over that sometimes. With Development Group, who are here to give a presentation and answer some questions. Gentlemen, if you'll come forward, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Reniger. Gentlemen, it's nice to see all of y'all again. It's been really our pleasure getting to know you guys over the process of examining this project, and we appreciate y'all and all of your efforts to help us with this. So what I thought I would do is sort of bring out a few of the renderings that we've had our architect produce that sort of give you an idea of what we have in mind for the adaptive reuse of the project. Should we put them on an easel or?
Burke, it'd probably be good if you just angle that so the council could see it and the audience could see it as well. I don't know how you're going to do that, but.
Okay, so I'll start with the site plan. Obviously, I don't have to give you what the current condition and configuration of the property are. Right now, it's almost a fortress to itself. It is surrounded by fairly high fencing that's impermeable and you can't see through it. And there's also, I guess, plus or minus 300,000 square feet of metal Butler building that also obscure most of the historical property. And so our plan is, and obviously our preliminary focus on this project is on the historic property. So mostly the 10 acres closest to the bridge. But our plan is to raise the existing steel structure to reveal the historic property and really put an emphasis on that. We're going to have more than ample surface parking for our residents, and we're going to do adaptive reuse of the existing historical structure to multifamily. And part of our plan involves putting a pool right there by the waterfall, sort of looking out over the pond and the waterfall. And this is a rendering that shows approximately what the project will look like after we deliver it. So that is the plan as we currently envision it.
Since this is a public hearing, I'm going to ask if there is anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and speak in favor of this proposed ordinance of rezoning. Dr. Simmons. You know the drill, Jerry. Name and address, and then.
Do I need to sign? Do I need to sign in or just state?
I think just your name and address is sufficient. You have to sign in.
Dr. Jerry Simmons, 141 North Chestnut Street in Pratt Mill, Alabama. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to say that I'm strongly in favor of this project, and I'm thrilled that we'll be able to try to save the cotton gin factory. So I'm all for it. A couple of issues were raised at the public hearing at the Planning Commission, and things like water and traffic and street routing. But again, I think those things with proper planning and engineering, those can be worked out and should not cause a delay in this project. I had a question, though, for Mr. Lambert, and the reason I ask it, it's not a loaded question, but do you anticipate any possible future retail? Because some of the projects in other cities have had a mix of residential and retail. And the reason I ask that is right now it's zone B2. And B2 would allow a use on appeal where you could actually have some retail. Once it's rezoned R4, which is apartment zoning, then any retail is prohibited. And so if there was a thought that you might want to do retail, it may not be advantageous to rezone it, but rather simply keep it B2 ask for a use on appeal from the zoning board, and then that would allow you to have retail in the future. Just something to think about, because once it's zone R4, it's apartment use only. So that was one thing. The other thing I wanted to mention was that they're in their due diligence period. So, of course, that's a long process, and they could elect after some point decide not to purchase the property, and I hope that doesn't happen. But if it should happen, the zoning is done tonight. Whatever you decide, you can't make your decision contingent on whether or not they buy. So you'll have to rezone it, and then later, if, for instance, you wanted to make this retail, you'd have to vote to change your zoning. So I wanted to bring that out. One last thing. There's a comprehensive zoning map that shows the purple, which is the mixed-use commercial. And so the Planning Commission, if you vote to rezone it tonight, the Planning Commission, it'll be real important that you change that to mixed-use residential, because the comprehensive zoning map should always reflect whatever you change your zoning to. So I wanted to point that out. So again, those were just some points, but again, I recommend that if they're not going to plan any future retail, then I recommend that you go ahead and vote to change this to R4 for the reasons I stated. Sure. Okay?
I'd be happy to address that if you like.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
In our initial assessment of the property, obviously we looked at a wide swath of uses, including a true mixed-use project on this site. I'm actually a big advocate of mixed-use projects, and I've been involved with some that worked out really well and others that didn't. And the ones that didn't work out very well were ones where retail on the ground floor of, say, a mid-rise, dense multifamily project was a requirement to get the project done, but then you have difficulty leasing the space or the business doesn't do well, and then that can actually harm the project overall. But most importantly, the reason why we elected not to do any retail in this particular property is just because there's already so much retail directly across the bridge in the historic core retail area. And so we're hoping that the presence of our project will actually help. Downtown, in my opinion, is already very vibrant, but hopefully it'll become increasingly vibrant. And we feel that that is probably the best place to have a real density of retail. So you sort of want a little bit of a separation between your multifamily and your retail in a configuration like this. So that's why we elected not to do any retail.
Mr. George Walthall's next.
Yes, sir. My name is George Walthall. I live at 216 Evergreen Street, Pratt Mill, Alabama. I have a law office downtown. I have several commercial buildings downtown. I wholeheartedly support it. We need a project of this nature. If you think about 165 or so residents in that area, it will be a tremendous boost to our entire community. The heart of the district is a historic district, and we need to continue to support that. On behalf of ACIC, which is the Otago Creek Improvement Association, we would love to continue to work on our project and work with you gentlemen to see that we can continue the walk trail all the way around the project and include the Mill Pond area as part of the thing, of the canoe trail and things of that nature. So we look forward to this. I commend y'all for your efforts, and I encourage you to do everything you can to move this along. We need it tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walthall. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this proposed ordinance? Anyone here that would like to speak against this proposed ordinance? Anyone against the proposed ordinance? Okay, this exhausts our public hearing agenda. These gentlemen will be available to speak with you and answer any questions privately after the meeting if you'd like. All I'd ask is that you step outside the chamber if you're going to talk so you don't interrupt the business meeting. This time the chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Do I hear a